Welcome to the Avro Heritage Museum podcast.
Today I'm going to chat with Roger Newton and Trevor Jackson, who between them had long and varied careers at both the Woodford and Chadderton sites. We hear about life on the shop floor, in the design office and in the future projects section, about top secret work at Woodford during the Falklands War, and how bright ideas coming from managers don't always turn out to be quite so bright when they come into contact with reality. We get a feel for the everyday life of an airfield and an assembly plant, as well as memories of those not so routine days when visitors drop in, like the King of Tonga or Prince Philip. But like many ex-employees, Roger and Trevor started by paying tribute to the apprenticeship schemes that set them on their way to their career in the aviation industry.
Learned a lot, particularly in my apprenticeship, which has served me very well for working, coming into the museum now.
How did that scheme work? It was a great scheme, wasn't it?
It was the EITB, Engineering Industries Training Board thing. So I got a certificate somewhere for that. But yeah, we did the same initial 12 months in the training school, which was a bit of fitting, bit of electrics, lathe work, milling, shaping, just about anything. If there was a machine, we did it. And that's something, like I say, it's stood me in good stead. Now I have a small workshop at home, what we both do. And it's pretty, we've used it extensively in the last couple of years.
Very much so.
You said there was lots of fun. Where were the fun bits?
Well, the fun bits were that you got the work done, but there was always someone with a laugh and a joke somewhere. Someone was taking the mickey. There was always a joke to be had somewhere. I've always been a big guy. I've always had the mickey taken at me. So I made it my sort of goal to take the mickey out of other people. Them are the things that you did. We had blokes that they could actually take on voices. They could actually, you could believe them, everything that they said, but you didn't know who they were on the telephone.
All right. Were they taking off people like in the management or just?
They might be taking off a foreigner and coming in as a foreign person and trying to sell you something. They might even be taking you they might even be a newspaper reporter doing a sports program. And it was all spoof. It was all just fun. It was good.
Camaraderie was the thing, really. You just don't get through the days without it. I mean, we had similar kind of guys in the design office as well. There's people who'd have a laugh.
You had to have a laugh.
Yeah. And that was presumably because there would be times when there were really important deadlines and things had to go, it was deadly serious, but to offset that, you had the laugh, yeah. Did you have, we were chatting a little bit earlier on, do you have any memorable visitors? Because when people come now, they see the housing estate. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? Just, what an important site it was. So do you get some interesting visitors?
Yeah, we got some, as Roger said, we got the King of Tonga. He was a larger than life guy, but as I said, he couldn't walk around the factory. He was too big. So they took him around in a limousine and they made the actual walkways into a road all the way around the factory just so that they could tour the factory. Had to have a special seat made because it was one seat. But yeah, he was larger than life, wasn't he? He was a real character. Then on the other side of it, you had people like Myra Hindley that came in. And she came in when they were taking her up onto the moors to see if they could find another body. And that was very cloak and dagger. She came into the airfield and was whisked off, and that was it.
And why did they brought her here, do you think?
Because it wasn't at Manchester Airport. it got away from people prying out.
Kept it out of the press where they flew her into here.
Yeah. So she came here and then went up onto the Saddle of Mud. You know, and those things are very sad, but it happened.
Yeah. And did you mention Prince Philip earlier as well? Did you say? Yeah?
Oh, he presented the, I suppose, keys to the aircraft, notionally, to the King of Tonga for the 748 that he was taking delivery of, or accepting on the day. It's a good day.
Right, so that's why the King of Tonga came. I was going to ask that. Were you hoping he was going to buy an aircraft? And the answer is yes, isn't it? Yeah. It's interesting you were saying about having fun, because I've spoken when we had the anniversary day last September to quite a lot of ex-employees, you know. Some of them were much earlier, you know, some were 50s. And I remember one of them, it probably was one who'd worked further back in time, who said the locals called it the holiday camp. I mean, did you hear that?
Yeah, they thought it was a holiday camp because when you came into the factory, you never saw anybody because they were all working in aircraft.
Yeah.
But come to lunchtime, there were thousands milling about.
Yeah.
It was very quiet on the shop floor unless there was someone riveting or doing a noisy job. But on the shop floor, it was very, very quiet. The drawing office was slightly different, I presume, Roger.
Yeah, just long lines of desks, really. 9 foot long, 3 foot wide desks, drawing board at one side on a note drawing board, so they're big. Your table for laying your drawings out that you're referring to on the other. But yeah, it worked. Yeah, I think going back to those days, it was just as the computational side of things started to come in, and I think that took a lot of the skill out of drawing.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, how much was digital? Because, as you say, that was early days, but would have been growing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we started, and when we did conversion work on Vulcans, for example, in 82, the Falklands, that was all done on the drawing board because the drawings were drawing board. ATP, when that started, we did a few bits on CAD, computer-aided design, but that system, Anvil, was essentially an electronic drawing board. So it's followed the same principles for a draftsman as you used on a drawing board. Some of the more later computer programs don't. And for somebody who's been brought up on the drawing board and has that sort of sequence of thinking, it's quite a challenge to get to use the modern systems.
Just remind us about the Falklands again, because back in September, those interviews I mentioned, somebody there had been very much on the shop floor and talked about, you know, the implications then, because it was a very tight deadline, wasn't it, to do this conversion? It's 3 weeks, was it? I think you mentioned
6, I think.
6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So talk us through that in terms of the design end, because you presumably you're starting with a blank piece of paper, really, because you get the phone call and told, right, you've got 6 weeks to do this job.
I mean, I was out of my time by 2 years in those days,
right? And
still at college, and it kicked off. Was it April?
Yeah, ish.
So it was run up to the exams. So I wasn't really involved in the Falklands. I was one of the few that stayed on 146 and kept that ticking over. Although I think the only thing I did on the Falklands, the guy behind me dropped a print of a drawing on me with a load of scribble and the new drawing. And he said, "Can you print all that neatly on this?" And that was my one contribution to the Falklands.
So pretty well everybody got switched onto that job, did they? I mean,
an awful lot. Yeah. An awful lot of the elder or more experienced draftsmen did, yeah.
And I heard stories from last September of people sleeping here as well. You know, that some actually, the hours were so long they just thought, well, it's not worth going home. And then
possibly, don't know.
And how did it impinge on you, Trevor, on the Falkland emergency?
To Roger, we heard about it and we were told that we were going to actually go on the Falklands project. So the aircraft came in, and as the aircraft came in, the RAF stripped it out of essentials that they wanted and the sneaky beaky bits that we weren't allowed. So they took all those away. They threw the parachute out the back, which made one hell of a bang. scared all the factory. So all they did was put the generator on, wound it all up and pressed the button, and out went the parachute. So that was to wake everybody up. But the story of that was when myself and Les Pimlock were trying to put the parachute back in, we had a problem. And on the side of the aircraft, there's a small little hatch. And inside the hatch is a doll's eye. And the doll's eye is half black and half white. When the actual parachute is in and it's all armed, it turns fully black. So it's just a switch, and the switch is round, and it's all black, or it's black and white. If it's black and white, you know it can't fly. If it's black, you know it's ready for flight. So we winched down the door with the parachute bay, for the parachute bay, and we winched down the door, and we locked her off in the cockpit. Nothing happened. The doll's eye still black and white. This went on for hours probably, and we were waiting to get the aircraft ready for flight because all the work had been done on it and it was ready for first flight. So we couldn't get it to turn. So we didn't know what was wrong with it. We'd got no idea what was wrong with it. Anyway, the foreman said to Les, "You're small. Why don't you get into the bay?" So we got the step ladders up to the bay, and Les got into the bay. And there's a big hook on the floor of the bay, and that's for the D-ring of the parachute. So I was on the winch. We'd winch the door down. As you winch the door down, it was fantastic. Onto the cockpit, lock her off, nothing happened. So winch the door back up, and as we winched the door back up, Les got out, absolutely ashen white. What we didn't realise was there was a big arm that came forward, and that was coming right in front of his nose because he was bent over double and right between his legs. So he came out absolutely white. So in the end, we finally got it so that the actual doll's eye would turn black and it was stamped fit for flight. But when they sent it for flight, through the parachute arm, they couldn't land as they usually land because they usually land at an angle, so they use the wind under the wings to slow her down. But they were landing more flat because of the box at the back for the HDU. And they came in and they threw the parachute out, or they thought they'd thrown the parachute out, but nothing happened. And what we found out was when the RAF had blown the parachute, they'd broken a micro switch, and that micro switch was imperative to actually throwing it out. And we'd just got it so that it was in a rubber grommet and it had held. And then in flight, it must have just parted. So it was not working. So we had to fit new micro switches. And the thing about the micro switch, I was amazed that it was actually September 1956 that it had been packed. And I was born in September 1956. And I was fitting a part that someone had last touched around my birthday. And you're thinking that worked absolutely fine. Just plugged straight in, bolted, plugged, away, done.
Fantastic, yeah. While that emergency was going on, did the security increase a lot? I was wondering when you were working on something that was...
Security here was always quite tight, wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah.
You couldn't get in without a badge.
No.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, I used to come in from Macclesfield through the MU maintenance unit gate that's at the far end of the runway. And quite often you'd see a car coming the other way and just assume it was night shift going out. No. It was people from Bramhall taking a shortcut through the Pack factory and avoiding Poynton. So, yeah, it was tight and perhaps not so.
Because I'm trying to remember which aircraft it was and whether it was wartime, but I've heard one story of armed guards.
That was the Falklands, but that was on the...
Oh, that was the Falklands, was it?
Yeah, but that was on the Nimrod.
On the Nimrod.
MR1.
Right.
And that was the sneaky beaky ones. No one was allowed on them without a pass.
That was so secret, yeah.
Yeah, and there were armed guards at the top of the steps not letting you off.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
wow.
as the case may be.
Similar with Annika.
Yes.
You wouldn't have been able to drive your car through then on a shortcut on those sorts of occasions, no?
It was...
Yeah, it was those particular time with a particular aircraft, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was the thing, yeah. All the people that I've ever spoken to talk of their time here with a lot of affection. What was it about it, do you think? You've already mentioned perhaps it was the camaraderie.
Yeah. Well, you made some good mates.
Yeah.
Everyone worked in pairs on the shop floor.
Okay.
You had to work in pairs because if you were riveting, you had to be outside the fuselage and inside the fuselage. So you always worked in pairs. So you got teamed up with people that you were working with. You were probably seeing them more than you were your own wife. You know what I mean? You were spending 40 hours a week with them. But yeah, it was good. You got some good characters, didn't you, Reg?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very good.
And you mentioned, I think I'm right, the time you were here, there was always plenty of work. So you didn't get into the period where things got tight. And then, of course, 2010, cancelling of the, the MR4A.
In 84 was quite a time because the Nimrod Mark III had been scrapped or was just about to be scrapped. So there was a bit of worry there. I was walking across the shop floor and Bob Burns, the works convener, actually said to me, he said, Trevor Jackson? I said, yeah. He said, heavy engineering experience? So I said, yeah. He said, there's a job for you at Chadderton. I thought, well, if the convener's telling me that, he's trying to tell me that I'm going down the road if I don't take it.
There's a bit of a hint, yeah.
So I transferred to Chadderton at that time. So in 1984, 1985, I transferred to Chadderton in the tool room. So I went as a tool fitter, which is completely different. But yeah.
Was there quite a bit of interchange between the two? Between Woodford and Chadderton? Did people move between the two? Or
if there was a redundancy, then yes, they would, but not usually, was there?
No. I mean, it was more or less two different catchment areas, I think. And there's some people, obviously, in the middle could have gone either way, but certainly for me, from Macclesfield, Chadderton was...
we were saying earlier that you hadn't got the M60, had you? So it was about 17, 18 miles, but they weren't easy miles, were they, to go from here to Chadderton?
We were going down the A6 into Manchester, turning right at Bellevue, going through Bellevue onto the whatever road it was then, can't remember now, and then sort of wandering through, well, not so much back streets, main roads, but was it? I can't remember the road now. And then turning in, getting into Chadderton. It changed my trip to work from about 20 minutes to around an hour. And I knew that people that worked at Chadderton, lived Chadderton way, going to Woodford to do a very similar job. I'm thinking, why couldn't they put two and two together,
Yeah. Did you work there too, Trevor? Did you work at Chadderton?
I worked at Chadderton.
I see you done both, right?
I did most of my time at Chadderton.
So you took up the hint and you went.
I went as a tool fitter. Yeah. Came back in 1989 as a standards engineer, and then we had the Taiwanese deal where they were going to join with the Taiwanese to do a job. The MOD said, this is a List X site. We can't have anything military on site. So they shipped all the military back over to Woodford. So I went back over to Chadderton. So I went back to Chadderton.
Right.
So I was there till the end.
Right.
2010, I actually retired.
Closed just a bit before here, yeah. What was it like in terms of the atmosphere between the two? Was it very similar there or different?
Different factories. When I started at aerospace in 1980, myself and the guy that I travelled with said, how does Chadderton survive without Woodford? And we couldn't understand how Chadderton survived. When we went to Chadderton and worked at Chadderton, we completely changed our minds and said, Woodford will never, ever survive without Chadderton. There were more parts made at Chadderton, there were more assemblies made at Chadderton, and all that was done here was to put them together. Yeah,
so they never actually manufactured anything here, did they? Or with one or two exceptions?
Just repair parts.
Just little bits and bobs.
Yeah.
So it's all got to be fed in from...
Yeah, Chadderton was just a full manufacturing site, and they manufactured everything.
I mean, there was a machine shop here, a top shop, at Woodford, sorry, but it was probably not much bigger than this.
Quite small.
Few lathes, few millers, jig borers, etc.
So everything went on low loaders, basically, and came through the city centre and down the A6,
Fuselages, ATP fuselages came down the actual roads.
Yeah.
Vulcan wings.
There's
a famous picture of a Vulcan wing coming under the bridge.
Oh, near the Rising Sun, isn't it?
Near the Rising Sun, and they actually closed off roads, and they did it on a Sunday morning when it was quiet.
Yeah, I suppose that would make sense.
They had special lampposts that would collapse so that they could actually get them round. Yeah. Big operation to get components here, wasn't it, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when the ATP was being built, that had a special trailer. There's a railway and steering, I think, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. In terms of the management in the two sites, was that broadly similar, or do you feel that was there a different feel in Chadderton compared with here, or I suppose I'm thinking, can you recognise it as being the same company, or was it different?
I'd say it was different. I'd say that the management style was the same, but the managers were different because it was a different job. And there were different things. Manufacturing is completely different to assembly.
Yeah.
So the management was different, but I think it was the actual job itself that caused that.
Any other highlights, thinking back to your time, that would be interesting to hear about? Stories or
Well, for me,
things that happened?
one of the memorable times was, I think, around 85, like Trevor was saying, but I then moved into Future Project, spent the next 10, 12 years there. Probably the one that really came out of there. I mean, I went in just after ATP had come into the main design office. But then and probably the one that I worked on quite a lot over the years was what ultimately became A400M. It's not an aircraft that's known much of from this side, because during the Taiwanese thing, that lot got shipped off down to Fulton. So that was another move.
So tell us a bit about that, because it's not an aircraft I'm familiar with. So A400M, what's
the RAF replacement for the Hercules? So it's in service now, and probably about the only one that I did work on that is in service. But as one of the guys put it, he said, our job in Future Projects is to look at ideas and identify the ones that are going to be a winner, and also identify the ones that are going to cost the company a load of money, and to dismiss them, So it was an interesting...
Well, it's a critical part of any company, isn't it? However well you're doing there and then, you've got to be looking ahead, haven't you?
We had some rather interesting studies, shall we say.
I suppose people will... They'll fly kites and see what does that look like, and then then you get shot down. Yeah.
One of the funniest ones we had was regarding the ATP, and I think somebody from the main board had obviously been at Farnborough, noticed the 146M that has an opening freight door, and had asked, "Can we not have this?" I've got to read a bit into this because I can't believe the actual story. But the actual story was, can we have the large freight door off the 146 on the ATP? I got given the job of drawing it. Now, the 146 is 140 inches, the fuselage diameter. The 748 is, can't remember, something like about 112, I think. Quite a huge discrepancy, which meant that the door had to be put in to fit that actual door, meant that it had to be blended into the main fuselage. And I said at the time, why on earth are we doing this? Because the 748 had a large freight door. It was openable in flight. The 146 one wasn't. I couldn't, for the life of me, come to a conclusion as to why we wanted to fit this door to an aircraft that it didn't fit on, when there was one already designed for it that did fit. And the only thing I could think at was that somebody at Farnborough said, can we have something like this on the ATP? And whoever had heard it had said, we want this on the ATP. Just lost in the whispers, I suppose. It turned out ludicrous.
As you say, you got to spot the winners and spot the potential losers as well, haven't you? So in Future Project, so some of it would have been adapting, would it? But was some of it just blue sky thinking? Was some people actually working from blank pages and saying, let's...
the office was only about 24 strong.
Right.
So, and then we had design, we had power plants, people who worked on, to integrate power plant, aerodynamicists, stressmen, loads, weights and balance, the whole gamut of the design family was in those two dozen people. So we only ever went to a very high level of definition, but it was sufficient such that when an aircraft left our department, an aircraft design, 90 to 95% of the aircraft's cost for not just manufacture, but maintenance, lifetime cost is already built in because of the decisions that was taken at that point. It's a very it was a very interesting period.
Yeah, I can see that.
My
I can see
career.
that. I can see that.
Yeah.
And Trevor, I've seen photographs, but I still find it hard to get my head around just the size of everything. Just remind us, so how many different buildings you'd have got here, in terms of the site?
You had the main hangars, which were
Right.
top shop, and then there was flight sheds.
Okay.
The top shop, it was, I can't remember the actual length of it, but they said it was something like an eighth of a mile long by a quarter. Was it a quarter of a mile long? It must have been an eighth of a mile wide then.
Yeah.
So it was a big, big factory. We had 3 lines of aircraft. So you had Nimrod going down one side of the factory. In the middle, when I was here, we had the Mark III Nimrod. And then on the right-hand side, we had the ATP, 748-ATP. So we could get 3 lines of aircraft down the factory. And finals, you would get 4 Nimrods in, probably. 2 ATPs.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And then
Maybe 6 Nimrods, because they
could wiggle them around.
And the finals was what was the
finals
finishing?
was the final fit.
Yeah.
But that was behind an actual door, which was classed as a fuel line. So there was no sparks, no nothing. So the aircraft could be fueled in there. So finals was actually through a door and blanked off. And you had to go through actual small picket doors to get through into it. For safety,
Yeah.
But the rest of the factory was just all the way down and was just workable.
Mm-hmm.
But it changed when he went into finals. And the aircraft went down in stages.
Yeah.
So I took drivers just come in, drop the aircraft, put them on the wheels, and then just tow them round. And they couldn't just take them down. They had to actually manoeuvre them round the pillars, because there were pillars holding the roof up.
All right.
So they had to skid them round the pillars.
Yeah, you've got to be a very careful driver then, haven't you?
Yes.
It's an expensive mistake if you hit something.
Oh, yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one of the problems that we got with the 146. Management had decided that they were going to reinstate fixed holidays. Came out and said, right, Easter fixed a week, I think. Need it for maintenance, etc., etc. A couple of weeks before Easter, management coming round with a clipboard. We're a bit behind on this. Can you come in? Pretty well to a man, I think. Everybody, they were the shops were expecting this, and it was a case of, well, no, I'm booked on holiday. Going away with the wife and kids. Mm-hmm. No. And so just a few of the managers came in, and they were trying to get an aircraft out. There was a part missing on one of them, so they robbed it off another. Didn't record it in the robbery, but the guys came in the following Monday, starts to run a hydraulics test, and a big bang. And the 146, the undercarriage folds into the fuselage, and the structural strength, longitudinal, is taken by a big beam on the bottom line of the undercarriage bay. And a blank had blown off and bent the beam. So the aircraft had to be rejigged and have a new beam brought in from Chadderton. And
how much do you reckon that mistake cost then? A lot of money, I'd have thought.
Never revealed.
No, not the sort of thing you publish, is it now?
But but there was no fixed holidays after that.
That's a lovely story, perhaps, to finish on. For the moment, it's been a great pleasure to listen to your stories. Maybe we'll come back for more if that's all right, because the idea is to build this up over time, really. So I hope it's not been too onerous for you. It's been fantastic to hear you. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure you follow us in your podcast app to ensure that you don't miss out on future episodes.